We got an interesting one on Thursday. Washington Commanders and Chicago Bears, a team that loves to give up sacks for free and a team that just can't get any. So I guess we got to figure out which one's going to give on Thursday.
Let's do it. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, we had an interesting one on Monday. We won't talk too much about it here. We're going to get into this matchup here in a second. But thoughts on that game, man. Giants, dude. Oh, my God.
Yeah, man, if you had the balls to put Giants a captain, or not Giants defense a captain, damn, I got that backwards. Seahawks defense a captain, you would have soloed the Millie, right? It was an interesting one. I wasn't really expecting the game to play out that way. But you know, when your offensive line is terrible, it's something we got to be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the guys in our Discord actually hit this lineup here. He got first place in one of the 20 maxes. Seahawks defense, Walker, Geno, DK Metcalf with Breida and Wan'Dale Robinson. I was feeling pretty good in the first half, and then stuff just kind of got out of hand at that point. But how did you do, man?
Oh man, I think the exact same. I didn't have any of the defense. I didn't have any exposure to defense. I thought the game was going to be a shootout, but you know, congrats to our boy. I'm glad he was able to win that. I think it was like an $875 win on it was the 25 cent big 20 max. So
yeah,
you know, contest selection matters, and obviously having the balls to run defense at captain.
I think shout out to Patrick in the Discord. I'm pretty sure he ran like 2 lineups, like hand built, that he entered and crushed that one. Good for him. All right, let's get into this matchup. Bears going into Washington, D.C. Commanders are 6-point home favorites. This is a 44.5 point total, 82% of the money coming in on Washington. Look, man, the Bears actually looked pretty good last week. They choked at the end. There's some questionable coaching decisions there, for both of these teams in last week's losses. But the Bears went forward on 4th and 1 with a tie game after giving up 21 unanswered points, and basically said, I don't trust our defense. We're not going to kick this field goal. We're going to try to go for it at a shotgun. They give it to Khalil Herbert, and the rest is history. They end up losing that game. The Commanders last week looked good against the Eagles. They were right there with them the entire game. We can't call Ron Rivera Riverboat Ron anymore. He could have went for 2 to win the game. When you're an underdog like that, you know, bringing those odds closer to you by one play and, you know, eliminating that underdog and just making it one play from the 2-yard line, or was it 2-yard line and 3-yard line? Anyways, they should have went for that. They lost that game, but they looked good. Sam Howell looked good. He kind of carved apart this Philly defense, 290 yards and a touchdown, but they gave up, 6 sacks in that game? Sam Howell is the most sacked quarterback in the league. So something we got to talk about. Thoughts on this matchup, thoughts on what you saw last week from these guys. And it feels like the Bears took a step in the right direction, but their defense is still just absolute garbage. It's nice to see that Justin Fields is getting a rhythm, though.
Yeah, man, it was good to see Justin Fields get a little rhythm, but I think we got to take it with a grain of salt. Right now, his best performances, I mean, was the first game of the season, or anyways, they played well against Denver. Denver's obviously a very, very bad defense. They're worst in points per game. They're worst in just about any statistical category you can come up with. If, like, expected fantasy points per game. Like, I think they're like worst in expected points per play. Like, every time the opposing offense runs a play, like, you can expect 0.2 points from it. Like, that shit's crazy. You know what I mean? So it's something to consider when you're looking at the Bears here. So I think Justin Fields has immense upside for DFS purposes. But outside of that, I'm kind of skeptical of the Bears' chances.
335 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 2 of those to Cole Kmet. DJ Moore had a long touchdown reception, but that was not a catch. At least it didn't look like it. He didn't have that extra foot down, but it counted. The bottom line is DJ Moore got involved. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 131 yards. Even if they took that touchdown away from him, I think it's still a successful day. But this team's 0-4. Their offense is ranked 18th. I'm sure last week helped that, but defense is ranked 30th. So look, they're not looking too hot right now. Right now, they're in line for the first and second pick with that Carolina pick. So the Bears are where the Cardinals where everyone thought the Cardinals were going to be.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
When you look at the other side here, defense 16th for Washington. Their offense is tied for 21st. I think that their offense will get a lot better throughout the season. You know, Sam Howell, this is his, 5th start? Or that was his 5th start. This is his 6th start. He's going to get better and better. Bieniemy is going to set him up for a lot of success. When it comes to weather, should be fine. No issues there in DC. Let's look briefly at some of the snap percentages here. So last week, DJ Moore had 93% of the snaps. Khalil Herbert was 78%. You see Roschon Johnson was only 22%. He was getting a lot of the goal line opportunities whenever there were goal line opportunities for them. So something to think about with Roschon. It doesn't seem like he's getting on the field that much. And in a game where they've had their best game all year, you think they're going to continue to work with Herbert. He was getting involved in the screen game, in the pass game. They basically were dumping the ball off to him quite a bit there in the fourth quarter when they were trying to get back in that to take the lead. Komet had a huge game, 74% of the snaps. But you look at some of these other guys, Mercedes Lewis at 60 years old, 29% of the snaps. This is a showdown slate with Mercedes Lewis, and he's $200. I'm going to lose money on him. That's a fact. Robert Tonyan, we know what he's capable of in Green Bay. He's wearing number 18 this year, which is kind of weird to see that, but 26% of the snaps. What jumps out to you with the snap rates here? Equanimeous St. Brown with 58% of the snaps with what's his bucket sitting at his house. Chase Claypool. What jumps out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you called it out, right? The Sun God's little brother or big brother. I don't know what direction it is there. But ESB, I think that he sticks out. And then Travis Scott, Tyler Scott, whatever his name is, I like getting a little bit of him in best ball because we really didn't know who was going to be that additional wide receiver here. But, outside of those two guys, I mean, I just think it's really important. Like, I don't think people talk about him very much. Darnell Mooney, solid 75%.
Yes.
He's just consistently priced like he doesn't exist every single week. And look, man, like, I don't know, like, we'll talk about him a little bit here, but I think that he's a fine mainstay for a lot of lineups.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One thing to point out here, I'll talk about this more in a minute when we get to our breakdown of the tight ends areas, but this Washington Commanders defense, points per game, PPR points per game to tight ends is the best in the league. I know it's only been a few weeks, so it's hard to judge that, but they're only averaging 5 fantasy points given up to tight ends. So Komet is going to be high owned because of that game last week. He could just have an average game, and his price and that ownership just might not pay off. There's some, look, let's talk briefly about this Eberflus situation. They lost their defensive coordinator to some shady shit. I don't know exactly what's going on with that, but he's gone. So Eberflus is calling the defense. Like I said in the opener, he did not have faith in his own defense there, and you can't blame him. But dude, if he loses this game, especially if this is a blowout, do you think he can get fired? I think he's 3-18 or something like that. You think he can get canned?
Yeah, I mean, at 0-5, why not? And who knows? I mean, this could be Eric Bieniemy's tryout for new head coach of the Bears. I don't think that'll end up happening. I think there's some other guys that they'll probably end up looking at. But yeah, dude, like, come on. We should see some kind of progression from this team. We're just seeing negative progression, and you got to look at some. I don't know. You want to blame the Chase Claypool situation on the front office, you can, but the coaching staff isn't helping get him out there either. So I think it's possible, man. If this game's a blowout, he could be fired before games start on Sunday.
All right, let's look at the other side here. McLaurin, 81% of the snaps. Logan Thomas with a nice comeback here, man. I was worried. I had a lot of him in best ball. I was worried that maybe John Bates would take over, or, Logan Thomas would just be too hurt to play. He's looked pretty decent, and he's connecting with Howell quite a bit this year. Dotson, 72%. Samuel 69%. You got you got Brian Robinson. He's the clear number one here with Antonio Gibson. If this team is losing, it feels like Antonio Gibson gets a boost. If they're playing from behind, I don't see that happening in my opinion. But I think Brian Robinson has a pretty good matchup here. The Bears' rush defense is not like the worst in the league. They're kind of average, but Brian Robinson fits the game script of Washington kind of taking over in this game and then running the clock down. Anything jump out to you with these numbers here?
Just an interesting one. We'll talk about it when we get to wide receiver. De'Ami Brown at 32%. He's very interestingly priced, and we do know that he's going to see increased work, especially if one of these wide receivers, misses a couple snaps. We know McLaurin, Dotson, even Samuel, tend to look at their snap rates, 81%. It just opens up opportunities for some of these other guys.
Remember, De'Ami Brown played with Sam Howell at North Carolina. Those guys have a little bit of a connection already. All right, let's get into our injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
All right, so last week, Eddie Jackson and cornerback Jalen Johnson were out. Looks like they're still going to be questionable this week. They were DMPs. Chase Claypool will be sitting at home. I don't see him coming back. They're trying to trade him for what, a 5th or 6th round pick. Some team will grab him. I mean, Chiefs could probably go after the guy like that. They could probably use a guy like that. There's not really a whole lot to talk about from the Bear side. If Eddie Jackson comes back, if Jalen Johnson comes back, that's a slight boost, but it's not going to change my opinion on anything. Jahan Dotson was limited with an ankle injury. Curtis Samuel had a quad injury. He was DMP on Monday. Now he did practice limited today. So anything jump out to you here with these injuries? If Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson, either one of these guys, just by chance just doesn't play, we're going to have some value options to talk about, right?
Yeah, obviously there's going to be a bunch of value that jumps out. I think it really just boosts, some of the guys that are healthy too, like McLaurin. Obviously, if Dotson and Bo Samuel out, that'll get real interesting. But we'll chop it up in the Discord. We'll have inactives and discuss strategy shifts as we get inactives and injury news throughout Thursday. So hop in there if you want some more information on that. Other than that, man, really don't care. Maybe if Chris Rodriguez is out, it just means Gibson probably get a little bit more run.
Yeah,
I don't think that matters.
Make sure you guys join that Discord. That's free. Click down below in the description for that. All right, real quick here. I want to point this out. This was from Warren Sharp's website. The Bears are the only remaining team to have all their games go over the game total through 4 weeks, probably because they've given up a ton of points. Chicago has now allowed 25 or more points in an NFL record 14 consecutive games. Guess what? I'm going to play a lot of Sam Howell. I'm going to play a lot of 4-2, 5-1 stacks of Washington. It's going to happen here. Let's briefly talk about some of these matchups on the O-line, then we'll get into this. We'll run through this breakdown pretty quick. The offensive line, interestingly enough, the offensive line for, for the Commanders grades out okay, but they've given up the most sacks in the league. Talk to me about some of these sack numbers that you're seeing. I mean, it's pretty shocking if you look at this team and how many sacks they've given up. 9 of those sacks were to the Bills in week 3 or week 2. Anyways, a lot of those sacks have come from one team, but they still give up 24, which is the top in the league.
Yeah, I mean, 14% of the time that Sam Howell drops back, he's going to get sacked. 36% of the time that he's under pressure, it results in a sack. I don't know what's going on there, but like we're looking at a line that's obviously worse than the New York Giants. New York Giants gave up 10 sacks on Monday night and still are 2 sacks behind Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders. Like, that's surprising. That means they're like, Washington is consistently giving up sacks. Like, Daniel Jones is getting fucked up from time to time, but Sam Howell is getting continually kicked the shit out of from week to week. But it's not really it's not impacting their. I want to be careful how I phrase this. You'd think it'd have a much more negative impact on their overall performance, but to see them hang in with a team like Philly it's kind of surprising when they get the shit kicked out of them on a consistent basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And here's the more interesting stat is I'm pretty sure this is the correct stat. It's every time that they get a sack, that drive, they've only scored one time on drives where they have a sack. That's just crazy to me. So if the Bears can find a way to put pressure on Howell and put him on the ground and really, really hurt him, the Bears have a shot in this game if they could find a way to do that. I think that's the key. The key to the entire game is the Bears defense just getting some pressure on Howell. All right, let's get into this breakdown. Let's do it. Break it down. All right. So this is really, really interesting to me, the pricing here. So Justin Fields, we know his upside, right? We know his rushing upside. He could easily put 100 yards down and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns on the ground. And he can get you there by just being the top rusher on the team, not even his passing upside. He's $11K. He's really expensive. There's a shot that, they could shut him down and he could not be in the optimal. I have no problem fading Justin Fields in certain builds. I think if you really want to get the most leverage, we've seen some crazy stuff happen. We saw the Jets dominate, Patrick Mahomes. So in this particular lineup, it would not particular game, it would not surprise me if Justin Fields had a way below average type game. But I still like him in this game. I think with the rushing upside, this Washington defense is not great. So I think you got to consider playing Justin Fields. He's going to be a very popular captain option as well. But what really jumps out to me here is Sam Howell at 9,400. That's insane to me. He should be over 10K. The fact that he's 9,400 makes me love him at captain, makes me 100% lock him into the flex, going up against one of the worst pass defenses in the league. And this team passes the ball the 4th highest rate out of any team in the league. I think 64% of their snaps are passes. To me, you got to go with Sam Howell here. It's just obvious, right? It feels like a free square, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sam Howell is a mainstay of all my lineups. I'm gonna have him at flex. I'll probably even have a little bit of captain. Normally, I don't like too much quarterback at captain unless there's obvious rushing upside. But I think people sleep on Sam Howell's rushing upside a little bit. He does have a little bit of running talent. We saw a little bit of it in preseason, and I think he'll continue to capitalize on that. And again, to your point, right? Like this Chicago Bears defense is not good, man. This is an opportunity for Eric Bieniemy to kind of like piece together a good offensive game plan and maybe get Sam Howell going for the rest of the year. And really, just real quick on Justin Fields, I really like him at captain. I know that's obvious, but like I'm going to be building a little bit differently, I think, for this slate. I think an onslaught with a Bear at captain is kind of the way to go. Like I'm going to throw Justin Fields at captain and then just Sam Howell and stack up a Washington however I can. But I honestly think that's probably going to be one of my favorite build types.
Yeah, that's really interesting, dude. I think we'll play with that quite a bit. I just feel like Eric Bieniemy is going to pick apart this Bears defense. Like, I know Washington lost, and I know there's no moral victories in this league, but man, that was a good game by them. They should feel some confidence. Basically, the Eagles are top 3 or 4 in the league type team. Sam Howell did great. There wasn't a ton of mistakes. Obviously, the sacks, they need to work on that. If they can figure that out, I think they're going to blow this team out. All right, running backs. Let's go with Washington first here. Brian Robinson Jr., 9,200. Antonio Gibson, 3,200. Chris Rodriguez is 200. He is questionable. If he's out, you got Derek Gore at 200. Back from his Chief days is probably why he's on this team. Brian Robinson at 9,200 is interesting. There's a lot of expensive guys on this slate. And I tend to think that a lot of people are going to be playing both quarterbacks, one of them in the captain spot probably. So getting Brian Robinson at 9,200 is going to, I think his ownership will be affected considering that all of the passing talent that we have in this game. I think he might be underowned. Him at captain getting a couple, he's looked good this year. Let's just be honest. And he's clearly the number one guy. The only reason why I would play Antonio Gibson is if I think there's a game script possibility that Washington can be losing. Thoughts on Brian Robinson here, man? I think he's in a good spot.
Yeah, I like him. I've been playing him a little bit all season, to be honest with you. But one of the things that I like about him is I think the wide receiver group for Washington can be a little tricky. So if you just really don't want to worry about that, I think you're fine just grabbing Sam Howell and Brian Robinson Jr. and just, hey, that's my Washington offense exposure. So look, man, I think he's fine at 9,200. To your point, he's probably going to come under 35% owned. I don't know that most people are going to be paying for him. They're going to prioritize McLaurin and some of these other guys. So, yeah, man, I like B-Rob. And then Antonio Gibson at 3,200. I do think he's interesting. The kickers are expensive as hell. So, some of these deeper GPPs, I don't mind taking stabs on a guy like this. All he needs is one or two good catches or honestly, just to be signed to an active NFL team, and I'll be playing him in some sort of gambling.
I can't help it, dude. I love Antonio Gibson. I'll always love him. I can't help it, dude. I always lose money playing this guy, but I think he has decent upside. But I'm way more interested in playing Brian Robinson in this particular game. Let's go to Chicago. So this is an interesting situation. We all thought Roschon Johnson at 4,800 was sort of trending as being that guy. He's a rookie. They brought him in. They want to get him involved. But Khalil Herbert, they drafted this guy too. And I think that they're going to continue to stick with him. He has both the ability to pass block pretty good. So he's not a liability on third down. And they're going to give him the first and second down opportunities. He's going to get most of the opportunities in this game, except like I mentioned, Roschon is going to be very touchdown dependent. He's 4,800. So he's probably right around that kicker range. So I just don't know how many opportunities Roschon's going to get in this game. And I don't see them handing the ball off to this guy too many times, in between the 20s, when, in the middle of the field. Thoughts on these guys? And look, Deontay Foreman, I'm so disappointed in this guy. I thought he was going to be the starter during best ball. He's barely played. If he's active, it's $200. So you're basically betting on an injury or betting on Roschon to fumble twice. Who are you going with here? Khalil Herbert had a great game last week. He looked good. He looked good in the pass game and in the rush game. He was incredible. I'm going to roll with him this week, I think, at 8,600. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like Khalil Herbert. He got 19 rushing attempts, and he's getting involved in the pass game. I think he had 7 targets or something along those lines. That's the kind of volume that I want from an RB1 priced at 8,600. Actually, that's more volume than I want for 8,600. That's like that's a pretty optimal projection. But obviously they're playing against the Denver defense, so it's something we want to keep in mind. But 8,600, I like Khalil Herbert. I don't think I'm going to be getting much Roschon Johnson. I like him. I have a shitload of him in best ball. 4,800 is just not necessarily my optimal price. I think that there's options, especially now that we know Chase Claypool is not going to be with the team anymore. I think there's options at wide receiver, and just even some of the snap rates that you showed for the tight end in Chicago side, right?
Yes,
there's other options that we have better value. I'd rather just punt and see if we can't get more studs.
Yeah, there's better value at that price for Roschon. I really do think that he might not even be a factor at all in this game. You might not see him. I hope I'm right about that. Why would they turn away from one of their best games? I know it was against Denver, but it worked. Khalil Herbert worked in that game, so why change it? But who knows? This is the Bears. This is probably one of the worst coaching staffs in the league, so who knows? All right, let's go to wide receivers. Let's talk about some of these Bears wide receivers. So DJ Moore looked good. He's at 10K. He's damn expensive. I mean, dude, at 10K, in this game where I think that the Commanders can put up 30-plus points, can you afford to play DJ Moore? I know he got 9 targets, 8 receptions, 130-something yards, and a touchdown. Like I said, that one touchdown wasn't really a touchdown if you really think about it. But what is he going to have to score to pay that off? Based off of his projection, the contest sims that I'm doing here in SaberSim, he's like a fade option to me. I know that sounds crazy, but you could consider fading him at 10K, because if he was closer to around 9K or 8K, I might have a different opinion on this. So thoughts on him?
I don't have many thoughts, man. Like DJ Moore, he's a great tournament play. If you like playing guys for tournament, and you can throw him at captain in a couple lineups, he's going to be sub 5% owned there. And if he goes off, right? He has what, a 30-point fantasy game like we saw on Sunday. But he's also the guy that'll get you 4 points, and you're completely screwed at 10K. So look, man, I don't like him necessarily on this. Like, I think it's setting up to probably not be a great one for the Bears passing game. I think they'll be able to put up some points through Herbert and Fields' legs. But outside of that, I think that they're going to struggle. Well, at least to be efficient enough to pay off a 10K DJ Moore. Now, Darnell Mooney, 5K. I love it. I don't give a shit, right? Like that right there is reason enough for me not really to play Roshan Johnson. I'll just pay $200 more and get Darnell Mooney every single time.
Yes.
So, and then like we talked a little bit about ESB and Velus Jones, I think earlier on. Tyler Scott is really going to be their true number 3. That's the guy that they kind of want to work in at $200. So they look. That's a guy like, listen, you're probably going to have some salary to work with here. So I don't mind rotating in some of these guys, especially if you're 150 maxing or doing, the milli or whatever we got Thursday night. But Tyler Scott's probably my guy. I'll probably have too much of him just overall on Thursday.
So Tyler Scott got involved in one end around rush. Velus Jones also got involved in the run game. Velus Jones is on the field a little bit more. He's involved in the kickoff return, things and punt return, things like that. But these are good. These are good value options to spread out. I don't absolutely love any of these guys, but getting 10% of these dudes, if you thought really highly of them, I think is well enough, and is going to be way above the field. Equinemius St. Brown at $1,800. He's on the field a lot. I think he has options to score touchdowns. He had one nice catch on the sideline. I think it was a 19-yard reception in that game. He was on the field a lot. He just didn't get involved a lot. So that's something to think about. But at $1,800, dude, that's a good price for him. But I agree with you. Darnell Mooney to me at 5K, he's going to get plenty of targets, plenty of opportunities. He's probably my favorite pass catcher. I love DJ Moore. He's my second highest owned player in best ball. I hope he continues to go off. I just don't like the pricing. That's the only reason why I don't love him in this game, is because of the price. He's priced like a Justin Jefferson would be, or like a CeeDee Lamb, or one of these top-end wide receivers on a really good offense. And he's going to need to have a way above average game, just like he did last week, in order to pay that off, in my opinion. Let's go to the other side here. Plenty of decent options here. We got Terry McLaurin. I'd rather pay 99 out of 100 days Terry McLaurin $200 more than DJ Moore in this offense. Terry McLaurin he crushed last week. He did well. He's getting targets. He's on the field all the damn time. And if Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel, for whatever reason, are limited, or they aren't actually active, Jahan Dotson's 7K, Curtis Samuel's 5,600. You got to even love Terry McLaurin more. In my opinion, coming into the season, I always thought Terry McLaurin is a top 10 wide receiver in the entire league. And I think he'll continue to trend up this entire year. He did have that injury earlier in preseason, and that kind of hurt his overall vibe and what people were thinking about him. I think he's fine. Like, he's going to be fine. He's a top 10 dude in my opinion. 10.2K, captain option, flex option. They're going to be throwing the ball a shitload in this game. He's going to be the guy that's getting those targets, right?
Yeah, man, I love Scary Terry. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the game, to be completely honest. But yeah, I agree with you, captain, flex. I think you have to have a pretty healthy exposure to him. To your point, if either of Dotson or Samuel sit, I think you really need to go heavy on McLaurin. If both sit, I might just lock him into every lineup at some point. You know what I mean? He just becomes such an optimal piece. And then obviously I do think a guy like De'Ami Brown is in play at $2,800. He is a little bit more expensive than I'd like to see him. So, I don't think you need to get crazy here, but I think you can sprinkle him a little bit in. And then especially if Curtis Samuel or Dotson are out, then for sure at 2,800, he's more than fine.
Yeah, and Dotson I'm interested in. Curtis Samuel, obviously, I'm interested in. He can get involved in a lot of different ways. He's been getting involved down the field quite a bit this year. He's looked good. Curtis Samuel has looked pretty good. Dotson as well. So all these guys I'm interested in. De'Ami Brown at 2,800 is interesting. I probably would rather, I know it sounds crazy, but I would rather go with Equinemius St. Brown on the other side at 1,800, save $1,000. That's probably just my thought on it, but that's only if Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel play. Tight ends. So Logan Thomas, former Arizona Cardinal quarterback, 5,200. Cole Turner, 800. John Bates, 400. I like all these dudes. Now, Logan Thomas to me at 5,200 is a little interesting. That 5,200 price, I'd rather get him than Roschon Johnson at a couple $100 more. And he got involved last week. The one thing that worries me about Logan Thomas is him getting hurt in the first quarter or something crazy like that. Like, that's what always worries me about this guy. I'm not basing all my decisions off of that, obviously, but I just don't love him at the price and kind of where this team's at. I don't know. Would you rather go with Cole Turner or John Bates at a way cheaper price here?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Turner. I like Bates. Turner will probably get more of the work. I don't know. I don't know if they'll carry all three, but if they do, I think all three are in play. Well, specifically Turner and Bates, just because of how much they are. Don't get me wrong. I love Logan Thomas at 5,200, but I still kind of feel like we're chasing a little bit of the ghost of 2 years ago when he had just that weird, excellent season at tight end.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt last year. And, I think he still has some upside. And this is probably going to be the game where he has 120 yards and 2 touchdowns because I brought this up. But it's something, it's just something I feel like we're chasing a little bit. And 5,200 is a little pricey for me, for a guy who hasn't really paid anything off quite like that this season.
So speaking of chasing, I like Cole Kmet. He's $6,400. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He got involved quite a bit. Like I said, for whatever reason, this Washington Commanders defense through 4 games has shut down opposing tight ends. We're talking about we're talking about Kincaid. Like there's been a decent amount of tight ends so far this year, Goddard, that have been shut down. Now, I don't know if it's only been 4 games. I don't know if that's a trend or if I'm just looking into this too much. But Cole Kmet is going to be, in my opinion, at 6,400, he's going to be higher owned than he should be. And, I think that you could consider fading Cole Kmet a little bit and being under the field. Am I crazy talking about that? And look, simply because Robert Tunyon's $600, he's on the field a lot. Mercedes Lewis, you're hoping for a 1-yard touchdown on the goal line for him. That's his ceiling. But Robert Tonyan, to me, I know his ceiling. I've seen it in Green Bay. I think he can get involved, and he's on the field. So where are you going with these tight ends?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I still think that I would rather play Darnell Mooney at 5K over Cole Kmet just on a 1v1 basis.
Yes.
Look, I don't mind getting a little bit of exposure to Cole Kmet again if you're doing a MME 150 max, even a little bit of 20 max. I can't justify paying 6,400 for him. He's not a guy that I'm going to be particularly interested in. If you think that he has another 2 touchdown game at 6,400, you probably want to consider him at the captain spot just because he's going to be flexibility to pound in any other stud that you want. Yeah, man, I don't think I'm going that route at all. Again, I think I agree with you here. I think I prefer Robert Tonyan over Mercedes Lewis, but I know you like your dude. I mean, what was the last time he had a touchdown was like 96. You're rooting for him still. No, I think he had one last year. But anyways, look, man, Tonyan at 600, he's fine. And then again, Lewis is going to be less than 1% owned. Like if you can solo with defensive captain, man, I think you can solo with Lewis in the flex.
Oh, Mercedes Lewis will be in the flex in my 500,000 maker bullet that I'm going to put in. Absolutely. All right. Defense and kickers. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Commanders defense is 5,400. We've learned our lesson, right? Don't play these expensive, high-owned defenses. This defense is going to be 25 to 30% owned, probably 10% owned in the captain. They're 5,400. Haven't we learned our lesson here with the Chiefs and some of these other teams throughout the year? And then what it is really these defenses that you don't expect to go off, who are low-owned and cheap, that actually matter. So what are we doing with Commanders defense? It feels like a lot of people are going to play them simply because they're going up against the Bears. I don't see it paying off.
Yeah, man, I am going to very unconfidently say that I cannot pay 5,400 for a defense. once again, I think I'd still rather play Darnell Mooney, right? He can get 7 points with 2 receptions.
Yeah.
So the Commanders defense, they have to not lose points for an entire game to compensate for that. 5,400, I just don't like it. Kickers, they are in play. I think I prefer, I don't know, I guess Washington, just because he's cheaper and Chicago's kickers are cursed. But look, I think I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, man, but the Bears defense is interesting, right? We thought the Seahawks defense was garbage. But you give up enough sacks and it doesn't matter. Like, that defense would have had 10 points the other night just from sacks. So like, it's something you have to consider. Again, I think there are better plays in that 4K range. I think there's better value. But if you feel like getting weird, man, like, the Bears aren't terrible. They're gonna get 5-6 points just from sacks.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe they've got one on the year, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
They have one on the year, which is crazy. But I'll honestly, I'm playing in tournaments, 20 maxes that have over 100,000 entries, 200,000 entries sometimes. The Bears defense coming in at probably 10% owned with a pretty decent matchup as far as attacking the quarterback. We know that they're going to give up a couple sacks in this game. Washington is. Can we get a scoop and score? I mean, that's really only all you're looking for. If you think that these defenses can pay off, you're looking for a touchdown. And if they don't get it, they probably won't pay off. And the Bears defense at 4K is still priced up a little bit too much, in my opinion. All right, let's get to our Crown Their Ass segment.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going Justin Fields. I'm going Sam Howell. Usually we're not a huge fan of playing quarterbacks at the captain simply because, there's times that they're over-owned and you can get some decent leverage by playing these wide receivers. But look, with Fields and his rushing upside, I mean, maybe he's going to cook in this game. What are your thoughts behind this?
Yeah, man. So I think really what I'm leaning here towards is what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. I just think that you can kind of do a reverse onslaught, throw him into the captain spot, and that's pretty much your primary Bears exposure. I don't think that necessarily anybody on the Bears has to do well for him to succeed. He has 80 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, the captain spot, throws for 150. Like, that might be fine. Capture all the points there and then run it back the other way. And then just lastly, just as we say on every single show, I have no problem playing some of these low-owned $200 to $600 guys, and there's several of them on this slate. So there's going to be multiple decent $200 plays. So although this is kind of a cop-out captain play, right? He's going to be the chalkiest one, no shit. I think you still have opportunities to get different by taking stabs on a Robert Tonyan who could come up with a bullshit touchdown. So I don't mind it for Thursday night with Justin Fields.
To me, my only concern with him at captain, I'm going to lock him into the flex in every lineup and probably get quite a bit of Fields as well. But his pricing to me is so good. The only thing that concerns me is, he plays so well to start that he's sort of game scripted out and they run the ball more. That would be my biggest concern. I do see in the multitude of different situations that this game can have, that Fields can keep this close. But in my opinion, most of the times that this game would be played, the Washington Commanders are going to come out. They're going to throw for over 300 yards. Howell's going to have two passing touchdowns. And I think at his price at captain, especially in single entries or cash smaller lineups, you probably got to go with Howell at captain. That's my thought. All right, let's get to our fades.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Ellie, you're ballsy, dude. I like it. I love it, dude. You put him right on the table here. DJ Moore is your fade. I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to be sad and potentially be screwed. But if he just has a below average game, and I'm talking, 6 receptions for 80 yards and no touchdown, I could see that happening. And I don't think he'll pay off with that pricing. Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I feel like I got to have some kind of a bold take after just saying to play fucking Justin Fields a captain. So, I thought I'd step my game up for the fade here. But also, man, I've always just been on the fence with DJ Moore. There's some weeks where you just have to have him. And then there's other times where you just know that he's probably gonna not get there. And just where he's priced, again, you made such a great point with Terry. I'd rather pay $200 more, get to him, and especially if a guy like Dotson or McLaurin ends up being out, you can't sacrifice. You can't sacrifice McLaurin to go more. I think you're fine just getting Herbert and Fields. Is probably the best way to get your offense from Chicago.
In this particular game script, like, I want to play some Brian Robinson as well. Like, I would like, in theory, to get both quarterbacks, one of which at the captain spot, and then get to Terry McLaurin, get to some Brian Robinson. You know, in order to do that, we're going to have to make a decision or two. And I think DJ Moore is the easiest decision. I wouldn't call it easy, but it's the easiest. Roshan, to me, is my fade. He's a little bit too expensive. He's trending down. There is an opportunity or two for him to get those goal line opportunities, but he's very touchdown dependent. If he doesn't get you those touchdowns, he's probably never going to pay off that salary. He's not going to be getting a whole lot of targets out of the backfield. Herbert seems to be the guy. They had success last week. I think they continue that into this week. All right, let's get into our lineup builds here. All right, we appreciate you guys. Throw us a follow or subscribe. Like this video. Let's get this video to 50 likes. We really appreciate it. We have our Monday Night Football games, our Monday Night Football videos for members only. If you click that join button down below, it's $3.99 a month. It helps us out, supports the channel. We really appreciate it, and you'll get those Monday night shows every week. All right, let's do what you're talking about, dude. Let's do Fields at captain, and let's do a 2-4 or a 1-5, and let's see how that rolls. You want to try?
Let's do it. Throw in Scary Terry, throw in Sam Howell, throw in Brian Robinson.
All right, so let's see where we're at. We're at 2,300. We probably need... These kickers are too expensive to get right now in this situation. So we're going to need like a defense, Bears defense, Equinemius St. Brown, Antonio Gibson situation, and then we're going to have to punt again. So this is what we're looking at with Fields.
All right, go ahead. Throw in Joey Sly. I think it's going to work. We'll see.
It might work.
We got Bates.
You got Bates. You got Mercedes Lewis. Pringle had a catch last week. Who are other $200 guys that we were interested in?
I don't hate Tyler Scott.
Scott. Yeah. Where's he at?
Yeah.
Tyler Scott. So you're punting here for sure with Fields at captain. And if this is a tournament lineup, I like this. This isn't a bad tournament lineup. I would probably be prone to pull Brian Robinson out of this lineup, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. So this is a 2-4. This is pretty interesting. You got any other ways to go here? You want to pull Brian Robinson out and try something else?
Yeah. Let's. I don't know, man. Fuck it. Throw in Jahan Dotson.
All right, Dotson, where you at, bro? 7K. That's going to leave us a little bit more flexibility, but we're probably going to end up in kicker land. Can we go Mooney, actually? Let's go Mooney here. You want to do that? A 2-4 with Mooney?
Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't even hate ESB in this lineup.
Yeah, this is a 3-3. This is where they're going to push us. Like, we're going to want to build 4-2s with Washington. We're going to want to build 5-1s with Washington. But all the value, or at least a lot of the better value, is coming from the Chicago side. So we're kind of forced to put in 3 Chicago guys in a lot of situations. So for podcast viewers, Fields, Howell, McLaurin, Dotson, Mooney, Brown. Let's pull Fields out of here. Let's do. We're seeing that it's a little bit difficult. Actually, hang on a second. Let's do a Fields and DJ Moore. We got to do Fields and DJ Moore lineup.
Yeah,
with him at captain. So let's try this and see what's going on here. See who we have to fade. So I'm putting Howell in, absolutely, but this might be we might have to fade McLaurin in this particular situation. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
So who goes off? Which one of these? Like one of these pass catchers we have to have going against this defense. We absolutely have to have one of these pass catchers, and it's either going to be Dotson. It's either going to be Curtis Samuel. Like, where are we going here? Or tight end? Where are we going?
I honestly think we probably lean Curtis Samuel. McLaurin doesn't get there, Curtis is probably getting involved somehow.
What about a little Antonio Brown action? Or I'm sorry, Antonio Brown. Oh my God, Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, go ahead, throw him in. I like him. 3,200.
Let's just see where it puts us. Logan Thomas. That's interesting. Darnell Mooney. So, like I said, here we go again. 3-3. Darnell Mooney is who I'd pick here, but I think maybe everybody would pick that. So I don't know. Roshan Johnson, even like I said, I don't like Roshan Johnson, but in this particular situation, maybe. Or do we just go down to kicker?
I mean, I think you do, but like I think the thing to keep in mind is just we see what the range is here. If you play all the jockiest plays, like that's why like I kind of talk about what I was talking about Justin Fields at captain, like punting, being willing to play those $200 guys, because to your point, right, we're being forced into those 3-3s. Or if you want to do a 4-2, the only way to do that is to go to Joey Sly. Otherwise, you're punting again and going down to what $2,800 De'Ami Brown. Like it's just weird when you price stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to try a Curtis Samuel and De'Ami Brown here?
I mean, sure. Let's see what it gives us on this one.
It's not ideal.
It was 50. Yeah,
it's not ideal. Commanders defense, no. Logan Thomas. I don't like it. Not at all. I prefer to just go down to one of these cheap ass dudes. Cole Turner, Robert Tonyan, John Bates.
Throw in Cole Turner. Let's see. Let's just see what we can do.
All right, so we got Fields, Moore, Howell, Samuel, Turner, $7,700, dude. Plenty. Jahan Dotson here.
Yeah, like I don't think that's crazy. If McLaurin doesn't get there, right? What's the game script for that? It's probably something similar to this. And honestly, like a different variation in this lineup. Pull out Moore real quick and just throw in Herbert.
DJ Moore and Herbert. Yeah, let's try that. And then
you have 2,100 flexibility here too to do whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Brian Robinson Jr. and then Cole John Turner. Bates or Cole. You can't do Cole Turner, but you do John Bates. So we see what happens here.
Tonyan.
So we see what happens with Fields at captain. Yeah, Tonyan too. It really limits the rest. What you can do. You're probably going to have to fade DJ Moore or McLaurin because I definitely want Sam Howell and I don't want to punt twice. Let's go to Sam Howell now because Fields is going to be super popular, but we built with him. Let's try this out. So, do you want to fade Fields in this lineup and see how it does, or do you want to start with Fields first and figure it out from there?
Oh no, let's fade Fields in this one. And so what? Throw in Herbert?
Yeah, let's put Khalil Herbert in. You could also argue that Roshan Johnson could be that guy in this situation, but let's start with Herbert. So we got Howell, McLaurin, Herbert. Do you want to get value from the Chicago side and then fill in these last two spots from Washington?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
All right, Equinemius St. Brown. Let's just let's throw him in. Let's just start with him. We got plenty of salary, dude. So we can go Brian Robinson. We can go Dotson. If we got Howell at captain, we should probably get another one of his pass catchers in the flex. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, throw in Robinson. I think we'll be able to comfortably still get. Right, yeah, you got Curtis Samuel. If you want, you can obviously pull B-Rob out and go Jahan Dotson. But yeah, man, I don't hate that.
So this is a 4-2. You got Sam Howell at captain, McLaurin, Herbert, Equinemius St. Brown, Brian Robinson, and Curtis Samuel. Now you see how easy it is to build without Fields. Now let's try it with him. Let's put Sam Howell back in at captain. Let's put Fields and McLaurin in and see how screwed we are. I think we gotta probably grab our value guy right now, right? Or a kicker or something like that to figure out where we're at.
Yeah, throw in what? I mean, you got Sam Howell at captain. He's throwing touchdowns. Maybe Joey Sly gets 5 extra points.
All right, Joey Sly. Let's see. Do you want to get? You want a Mooney? You want to pair Fields with Mooney here?
Yeah, this is kind of going to work out too. Like, I don't mind just throwing in Logan Thomas in that last spot. I'm not going to have a bunch of lineups like that, but like this is where I'm okay getting a little bit of Logan Thomas exposure, you know?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to have some Logan Thomas exposure. Don't get me wrong. But like more than 15%, probably not. So we got Sam Howell, Fields, McLaurin, Joey Sly, Mooney, Logan Thomas. Let's build one more lineup here, dude. What are you thinking here? You thinking McLaurin? You thinking Brian Robinson?
I think McLaurin's pretty much going to be what we'd do with Justin Fields. I think we get kind of crazy here. Let's go with Khalil Herbert at captain.
Khalil Herbert. Let's do it, dude. I like that a lot. Let's do Khalil Herbert, and you want to do like a 1-5? Let's see if it's even.
Let's
try
fade Justin Fields and just jam in. Let's go Terry, Howell, B-Rob.
8,300. I mean, we got plenty of options here, man.
Throw in Dotson, dude, and then just go down to Bates or whatever. Cole Turner,
right. Tunyon, Bates, Herbert at captain, and we got 5 run backs here with Washington: Howell, McLaurin, B-Rob, Dotson, Turner. I think what we're finding out here is DJ Moore, to me, is the key as far as if we think DJ Moore cannot pay off that a really expensive salary, there's going to be a lot of good options for us. If we feel like we have to fit him into 40 to 50% of our lineups in the flex or 10% in the captain or whatever, it's going to make things a little bit more complicated. So it feels like if you just say F him, maybe we don't need him to catch 0 passes. We just need him to get under 15, 16 fantasy points probably, right?
Right. I guess the easiest way to talk about him is just we're not saying that he's the easiest person to fade. We're saying that he's the hardest of the expensive people to play.
Yes, I totally
think that's
agree.
the best way to say it.
Yes, totally agree. And that's the thing is, like, who's mispriced? Like, if we're watching football and that's it, DJ Moore is a great player, and I would probably want him to do well, but he's $10,000, and that's the game we're playing here. So I feel like he's one of the guys that we can consider fading. I'd rather play Fields more than him, but hell, you never know, man. Like we saw, I trusted Daniel Jones, which I probably will never do again. But we saw what happens when your team just has a way below average game. Nobody does well. So I think that's where this game's going. So I'm okay with fading a couple of Justin Field lineups, a couple DJ Moore lineups, and going super heavy Sam Howell and all his pass catchers and a little bit of B-Rob. What else are you thinking, man? What's your final score prediction here? Remember, the Bears have given up 25 plus real life points in 14 straight games, which is a record.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be 31-27 Washington.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go 35-17 Washington. Who's your low on guy you think can score here?
Ooh, I guess it's got to be Cole Turner or whatever his name is, right?
Yeah. I don't have an answer to that. I'll get back to you in the Discord. I want to wait to see who's out and see inactives. All right, guys, we appreciate you. Join that Discord. And throw us a like, get us to 50 likes, and subscribe. We appreciate it. We will see you guys for Sunday Night Football.